This mistake is one of the biggest reasons you might lose a game of Commander, so let's take a look at it and ways we can fix it. Overextending, which is committing too many permanents to the battlefield, or playing valuable permanents such as your Commander or a combo piece too early. Now the reason overextending is a problem is because if you become the perceived threat too quickly for the rest of the table, then you will either find yourself on the receiving end of a board wipe, or everyone will be pointing their removal or attacks at you and trying to set you back because they feel like you're too far ahead, which is something you've likely experienced where your deck is actually doing the thing, you got off to a good start, things are feeling good, and then all of a sudden, you know, someone board wipes or everyone's focusing you and you realize like, oh, I'm almost out of this game completely because it's going to take me so long to rebuild because I used too many resources and then lost everything. So how can we fix the issue of overextending? Well, we want to make our decks more resilient. This starts with our deck building, but gameplay matters as well. We want to start by including protection spells in our deck. Now, depending on our deck strategy and our colors, we have various options available to us. We can give ourselves hexproof or indestructible, and this will either protect all of our permanents or one specific permanent. Phasing allows us to phase out our permanents until our next upkeep so they don't exist. This allows us to protect our tokens as well. Redirect effects are great at protecting your stuff from single target removal because not only will you protect your thing, but you'll be able to remove something else as well. Counter spells are absolutely fantastic, but just remember that if you counter the board wipe, you're saving everyone's board, which hey, sometimes you need to do that, but just be aware that it has a bit of a different interaction, because if I cast a spell that only protects my board from someone's board wipe, then my other two opponents will still lose their boards, right? Unless they have their own protection spells. But if I just counter spell it, I'm also saving them. I also want to include blink spells. Now there's different kinds. Some will come back immediately, some will come back at the end of turn, you know, stuff like that. But these can be used to dodge removal. Also, because the theme is resiliency and not just protection, you can also use any kind of reanimation spells and stuff like that is also a way to add resiliency for your deck. It's not specifically protection, but if you overextend and somebody board wipes and it puts all your creatures in the graveyard, obviously you have access to them if your deck has a bunch of reanimation spells and stuff. Now, not everything will be at instant speed. Sometimes you'll have permanents protecting other permanents. Now, this gives your opponents a chance to remove the permanent that's protecting the other permanent, or if it's an equipment and you're trying to equip it to a creature, your opponent can respond by removing the creature. And because they only have that small window to do it, they might actually find themselves saying, hey, you know what? I need to remove this thing now. I wasn't sure if it was a threat. I was saving this for something else, but you know what? I can't deal with this once it has hexproof or something, so goodbye. Now that we've added protection spells to our decks, what can we do during the game to ensure that we don't get blown out for overextending? Well, we make sure not to commit too many resources to the battlefield or our important resources to the battlefield without having our protection spells ready. And if for some reason we don't have our protection spells in hand, it's best to at least leave some mana and keep some resources in our hand so that if something bad does happen, at least we can rebuild, and hopefully the fear of the mana being opened is enough to protect us for another turn around the table. The next thing you can do is make sure that you're not the biggest threat at the table. You've likely heard many people say this before. The reason is because when you're the biggest threat, you're the one everyone wants to deal with. They want to remove your stuff, they want to remove you from the game because you look like you're out of control and at any point in time you might be able to win the game. So keeping that mana open and holding back resources, as we mentioned, is great for bluffing that we have some way to protect ourselves or something, but also it allows us to not look as threatening because we don't have as much on the battlefield. And then if someone else keeps overextending, they might find themselves as the arch enemy, and if they're the most threatening player, that takes the heat off us, and then once they're dealt with, it's easier for us to swoop in and win the game. To sum everything up, you want to make sure that you're not committing too many resources or your important resources to the battlefield too soon. You want to have ways to protect them, and you also want to keep stuff in your hand and not commit everything to the board right away because you don't want to be seen as the most threatening player. Let me know in the comments down below some of your experiences with overextending, as well as your favorite protection spells. Until next time, thanks for watching.